Hi, and welcome back to another episode of my ballet journey. In this series, I talk about learning ballet as a 32-year-old adult who is also a pole instructor. I don't have any major ballet experience, so pretty much learning everything from the beginning. Since the last episode, episode 4, I've taken 4 classes, I believe. So I'm going to talk about some of the terms that I've learned in the last few weeks. I learned pas de chat. The teacher said that it is called the step of the cat. I have found overall that it really helps to look up these terms and see what they mean so that I have a visual of what it should feel like. Because if I just hear these terms, which are French, it doesn't really mean much to me. I don't speak French. So having an understanding of what it means helps me kind of think how to move better. So I actually have been trying to look up everything that I've learned, even the ones that the teacher has not explained the meaning of. I will look it up and then try and repeat it in my head so that when I come back, it's more familiar. Tomber, pas de bourrée. I learned that piqué means to prick. We do piqués very often or frequently in the classes that I take. At last night's class, we did something called the lame duck, which is kind of like a pirouette where you're turning and moving across the floor, or maybe not moving across the floor, but that's what we did. And learning the lame duck was actually easier than the time that I have doing a pirouette statically. And I think it's maybe because we step into it when we are going for that. We'll extend one leg and then step into it and then turn. And I felt like that was something that I could practice on my own and remember how to do it. So I'll probably incorporate that. Because I asked how do you remember all these things? And is there a way to practice on my own? And she had recommended actually going on YouTube and seeing if there's instructors or whatever, which I knew that there were because I actually Googled it a long time ago and found someone. And sure enough, it's the same girl that I looked up years ago, this girl Audie. There's a bunch of ballet instruction videos there. And I'm like, oh, I should just watch these more often because it definitely helps cement the terms, and seeing her do it is also really helpful. One thing that I noticed really helped me yesterday. So we did a race of glissades. We did a race of how fast you can get from one side to the other doing glissades. I'm a little bit competitive, so I like the fact that it's kind of like a game, but I knew, it's just to help us give us incentive to get over to the other side faster by means of jumping harder. She explained that with the glissades, it's going to come from your legs. You shouldn't be using your arms as much. In fact, they can just stay on your hips or they can be out, but she was it's not going to help you because it should be coming from your legs. And that's another big lesson that I've learned for sure is that a lot of power is in the legs, not the arms. I used to kind of think that your arms were a momentum driver, and maybe in pole it is more that way because people will swim through a pirouette to help get you around faster, but maybe it's different for ballet. Anyways, what I liked about this drill was that the person that was behind me doing it was she was better than me, as in she's more experienced and she's been coming a longer time and she has the technique. It was an all levels class. So she was actually right behind me as we started the drill. And when I would look in the mirror, because she said to keep your gaze up, seeing her behind me it was kind of like a shadow, and me comparing myself in my form to her form behind me was a very quick, a good comparison and way for me to reference how I should look. Seeing her really straight knees and how she powerfully extended her leg. It kind of turned something on in my brain of oh, I need to do that too. It was funny because I felt that was actually really helpful. While I can't have someone behind me who's doing it better every time, it's useful to know that that actually helps me. And maybe if I do private lessons or something, I can ask her to do it behind me so that I can see it and compare myself to that person. Once again, doing all these ballet drills, I'm rarely able to actually see how I look. It's a good thing that I can see as we do these drills and center work drills that how I actually look, because we're facing the mirror as we go across the floor, but also seeing the person that's doing it correctly right next to me is so helpful. One thing that really lit me up was, I always ask questions in class. I'm not afraid to ask questions. After one of the classes, she told me that I was getting better, and I was oh, just hearing that makes me really happy. it's hard to be not good at something when you start out. So it's just really reassuring to know that like I am getting better, because in my head, every time I come, it's like something new that I'm learning, and I don't feel good every single time, but I'm even starting to notice some improvements. It is still hard to hold myself on one leg. She still has to tell me to like lift up out of my hip when I'm standing on the ball of my foot and doing a passe or a coupe. I think I am getting better at some things. Like I'm slowly starting to understand how my arms should be moving, and it's becoming more of an intuitive thing rather than me having to think so much or have to remember what she told us to do. It's more being ingrained into my memory that like my arm would go forward when my leg goes back for certain drills. I am paying like a lot more attention to my arms and my hands than I used to. Every time I come, I learn like some extra little detail that she might not have said in previous classes. I think it's just like a matter of time, like more and more details will be like revealed as I continue to go. Like, for example, she talks about like holding a pumpkin or holding a ball with your arms. So I was thinking my hands would also be holding this ball as in like this or like this. I was still practicing like nice hands, but I had my thumb like out further than I guess I should have been. And so after some classes, she came around and was like, "Oh, you should be holding your thumb closer, like pretend like you're holding a piece of bacon." I was like, "Oh, I had no idea." So now I'm learning to have my thumb closer to my palm in the positions, and that's actually very useful. I do feel like the serious attention to detail with my arms and hands has translated a bit to my pole practice. I was freestyling the other day, and I think almost just the act of like constantly paying attention to your arm position in ballet. When I went back to do pole, I'm kind of just by habit thinking about it more now. Like as I'm doing pirouettes, as I'm extending my arms, I'm thinking like, does this look soft? Does it look aligned? How is my elbow? Is my elbow high enough? I'm like kind of hyper analytical about it now, which I guess is a good thing. And I guess that's what you want. You want to dance with like attention to detail. And while I might be thinking a little too much about it now, I'm glad that I'm thinking about it, because before I might just go and do things with my arms that might not have been like as clean as they could be. I think that it is doing something. I'm also taking this to my like spin passes on pole as I'm preparing this routine and doing like a very simple spin. I'm doing this thing where like I wrap around the pole as I'm spinning to the music, and I do this thing with my arm where I go up and I lean back into like a back bend. I forgot the name of it, but it's in ballet where you fold forward and then you lift up and back and you bring your arm up above and over your shoulder. And she had mentioned you don't want to just like lift your chin up and back, but you actually want to like turn your head over and like lengthen your neck. And so as I'm doing this in pole, I'm thinking like, is my neck long, and like, is my face still visible? Because I do think that it does help to do it that way versus just like throwing your head back in the biggest back bend you can, because ballet is also a visual art. Like it's for the audience, just like pole is. So you want to see the person's like the longest extension you can. Something that I thought was really interesting in comparison of pole with ballet was like, and this might be good for pole too, but so basically a lot of times in my class, I'll have people like try and get their leg up as high as possible. And for people that are not that flexible, I will give them like compensations so that they can get their leg up high. And that it might include like folding more or like leaning back. Maybe it's the kind of thing where like once you know that you're breaking a rule, you can do it. So we did attitude, and it kind of is like arabesque. Your leg is back behind you and you're bending your knee so that if there was like a line between my toe and my arm extended out, that they would like be connected. But she was saying that she would rather see your torso lifted up high than your leg up really high and you folded forward. And it made me think of how in pole, like I want to see the leg up as high as possible. And like you can fold forward so that I can see more leg. I wouldn't say that there's like a right way, but like I was definitely thinking and comparing this. Oh, rainbows. I have something on my window that is like a rainbow reflective thing. I did a mixed level class and it had like a bunch of really good dancers in it who clearly have been doing ballet for a long time. I was a more beginner in the class and we did these drills across the floor and one of the girls was super good. I was studying her because she had such a presence. She had her head like lifted. I'm always watching the really good people and just being like, what is it about them? Like, what are they doing differently than me? And so I make a lot of observations and I try and like write them down later because I'm like, I want to look like that. What do I have to do to look like that? It's just like amazing to see someone like so graceful, but also moving so powerfully. Like as she did her waltz or whatever drill it was across the floor, she looked so light and she was like a tall girl. She was kind of muscular. Ballet seems like when you do it well, you're just like light as a feather, but also she seemed so powerful. Like I was waiting on the one side of the room because we went in groups of 3 across the floor. And so I went before her and when I was waiting and she was in the group next, she did her drill across the floor and I could feel like kind of like a wind as she got closer to me and so she stopped like just in front of me and I was like, whoa, I could just feel the power from her moving and it was like really cool. Honestly, I was like, how do I be like that? She was just moving so gracefully but also so in control of her body and doing it so perfectly. So it was more inspiring than anything and I just want to be able to do that. That's all I got for today. I hope that you're enjoying the journey as much as I am. I'm hoping that I just keep getting better and I'm going to keep practicing on my own. Pretty much I've only been practicing like when I warm up to do pole. I'll just kind of like throw in some of the things that I've been learning in class as much as I can remember because I usually forget where my foot goes in a lot of things. But yeah, cheers to another 10 more classes that I bought, and I'm going to keep going with it. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you like this video. Bye.